The bell rang loudly. Students rushed into the classroom, laughing and talking. It was the first day after summer holidays at Royal Future School, one of the richest schools in the city. Then the room became quiet. A boy stood at the door. His shoes were dusty. His bat was old. His shirt was too big, and there were patches on his pants. He looked around with calm eyes. Some students started whispering. Who is he? Is he lost? Did he come to deliver something? A girl giggled. Look at his clothes. He's a village boy. But the boy didn't say anything. He walked to the last bench and sat down. He opened a small notebook, the cover torn and faded. His fingers were rough like someone who worked hard with hands. His name was Ayan. He was the son of a poor farmer from a small village. He had never seen such a big school before. Big windows, air conditioning, smart boards. All of it was new to him. But Ayan didn't look scared. He looked focused. He looked ready. The teacher entered. Good morning, class. We have a new student. She pointed to Ayan. This is Ayan. He will be studying with you from now on. Let's make him feel welcome. But no one clapped. A few students just smiled politely. A boy named Rahil, who always wore branded clothes, whispered loudly, Welcome to the jungle, farmer boy. Everyone laughed. Ayan heard it, but he didn't respond. He kept looking out the window. His eyes were deep, like he was thinking about something far away. During lunch break, Ayan sat alone under a tree near the sports ground. He pulled out his notebook and started writing something. Rahil and his group walked by. Hey, what are you writing, little farmer? One of them teased. Ayan didn't look up. He just kept writing. Rahil came closer. Why don't you go back to your field? This school is for people who wear shoes without holes. Still, Ayan said nothing. That made Rahil angry. He snatched the notebook from Ayan's hands. Let's see what our genius is writing, he shouted, opening it. His friends laughed when they saw the pages filled with drawings, strange machines, pipes, gears, and notes. What is this? A spaceship? One boy laughed. Rahil read a line out loud. This pump can pull water from dry land using broken fan motors and cycle parts. More laughter. He thinks he's an inventor. Ayan stood up quietly. He looked at them, not with anger, but with quiet strength. Give it back, he said. Rahil smirked. Why? So you can build your silly pump and water your cows. Ayan didn't reply. He just stood there, eyes steady. Something about his silence made Rahil uncomfortable. He threw the notebook on the ground and walked away. Later that day, Ayan walked past the school gate. His shoes made soft sounds on the tile floor. The guard looked at him and gave a small smile. But then, a loud horn. A big black car stopped at the gate. The guard straightened up quickly and ran to open the door. A tall man stepped out. He wore a sharp suit and dark glasses. His watch looked more expensive than anything Ayan had ever seen. Teachers came running. Sir, you didn't inform us you were coming, the principal said nervously. The man nodded slightly. I'm here for something important. He held up a photo in his hand. The guard, the principal, and a few students tried to look at it. It was a photo of a notebook page with a machine design drawn in blue pen. I need to meet the boy who made this, the man said. Who are you, sir? The principal asked. The man took off his glasses. I'm Mr. Kareem, from Kareem Technologies. Gasps followed. Everyone had heard that name. Mr. Kareem was one of the biggest billionaires in the country. His company built smart machines, power systems, and tech solutions for cities and farms. The students who were standing near the office started whispering fast. Why is he here? Who drew that machine? Wait, is that Ayan's notebook? The principal looked shocked. Sir, I think I know the boy. Mr. Kareem smiled. Good, bring him to me. Ayan sat in the principal's office. His notebook was in his lap. The same notebook Rahil and his friends had laughed at just a few days ago. Now, it was in the hands of a billionaire. Mr. Kareem flipped through the pages slowly. His eyes didn't blink much. He was reading carefully, every line, every drawing. Ayan looked nervous, but he stayed quiet. Finally, Mr. Kareem spoke. Where did you learn to design this? Ayan looked up. From my village, sir. From the problems we face every day. The principal looked confused. What kind of problems? Ayan replied softly, water. We don't get clean water. Sometimes for days. I saw my mother walk miles just to fill one pot. So, I tried to make something. A water pump from old pots. The principal stared, but Mr. Kareem smiled. And where did you learn about pumps and motors? He asked. I watched YouTube videos in a shop, Ayan said. They give free Wi-Fi for 30 minutes. I watched videos, took notes, then came home and drew everything. The room fell silent. The principal cleared his throat. This is surprising, but he's just a child, sir. Mr. Kareem didn't respond. He took out his phone, clicked a picture of Ayhan and saved it. Then he stood up. Thank you, I'll be in touch. And just like that, the billionaire left. The next day, Ayhan became the center of attention, but not in a good way. He must have lied, one student said. It's all fake. He probably copied it from somewhere, said another. Rahil smirked. So now the farmer is a genius? Come on, he probably just got lucky. At lunch, the same group followed Ayhan again. This time, they brought more boys. Rahil stood in front of him. So, big man, meeting billionaires now? Ayhan didn't reply. Rahil laughed. You know why he came, right? He'll take your idea, give you a handshake, and you'll be back to your village in a week. Everyone laughed. Ayhan didn't look angry. He looked calm, like always. But something in his eyes had changed. He looked stronger. Flashback. 1 year ago. In the village, Ayhan sat under a tree, turning the wheel of a broken bicycle. His little sister came running. Bye. Alma said the tap is dry again. Ayhan stood up, his face serious. I'll go with her. They walked for an hour under the hot sun. His mother carried 2 pots on her head. Ayhan carried one too. As they filled water from the muddy hand pump, he looked at the iron pikes and thought, why can't we make this easier? That night, after helping his father in the fields, he took a broken fan motor and started experimenting. His hands were small, but his thoughts were big. He didn't have a lab, just tools, junk, and a dream. Back to present. School classroom. Ayhan opened his notebook again. This time, no one took it from him. Even Rahil looked a little unsure. Something had changed after Mr. Kareem's visit. 1 day later, a notice appeared on the school board. Science Fair, Special Entry Project by Ayhan Ahmed. Live demonstration in 3 days. Chief guest, Mr. Kareem, CEO of Kareem Technologies. Gasps echoed through the halls. Rahil was stunned. Wait, what? He's coming back. Ayhan walked by, silent as always. That night, Rahil and his friends gathered. We can't let this village boy become a star, one said. Another added, he'll make us look like fools. Rahil nodded. Then let's make sure his project fails. Later that night, in the classroom, Rahil snuck into the lab room with his friends. They looked at the machine Ayhan had started building, a simple motor, some tubes and wires. They loosened a few screws, pulled out a tiny coil, and left. Let's see how the genius performs now, Rahil whispered. Next day, a warning. A girl named Maya, who had always watched Ayhan from afar, saw something strange. Rahil coming out of the lab room at night on CCTV. She didn't say anything yet, but she felt something was wrong. She walked up to Ayhan at break. Be careful, she said softly. Not everyone wants you to succeed. Ayhan looked at her and nodded once. But in his heart, he already knew. He had felt it from the beginning. They laughed at him. They mocked him. They thought he was weak. But Ayhan had learned something in the fields, something they didn't know. Seeds grow best when they're buried, and he was just getting started. The morning of the science fair arrived. The school was full of excitement. Teachers were decorating the hall. Parents were coming. A red carpet was rolled out at the entrance. But the real buzz was about one thing. Or rather, one boy. Ayhan, the farmer's son who had shocked everyone. Today, he would present his project in front of hundreds of people and in front of a billionaire. Earlier that morning, Ayan stood quietly near his table in the school lab. His invention was ready. He had worked all night. His machine looked simple: some plastic pipes, a fan motor, bicycle parts, and a few wires. But what it could do was powerful. He looked at it carefully, then checked the wires again. He had a strange feeling. Something felt off. Suddenly, Meher walked in. She looked around nervously and said, "Ayan, I think someone tried to mess with your machine." She showed him a picture from the CCTV camera. Rahel sneaking into the lab 2 nights ago. Ayan's eyes narrowed, but he didn't panic. He opened the machine and checked inside. Just as he suspected, one small copper coil was missing. A screw was loose. He took a deep breath. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out an extra coil he had made. Because Ayan was not just smart, he was prepared. Flashback. 2 months ago, Ayan sat under the stars in his village, fixing an old fan. His father walked up and asked, "Still working, son?" Ayan nodded. "I want to make a design that never fails, Abba. People laugh when something breaks. I want to be ready when they do." His father smiled proudly. "You think like a farmer, Beta. We plant 2 seeds in case one doesn't grow." Back to present. The science fair. The school auditorium was full. Cameras were rolling. Mr. Karim arrived in a black car. As he entered the hall, the crowd clapped. He shook hands with the principal, but looked around like he was searching for someone. And then he saw him. Ayan stood near the stage, wearing the same old shirt, but with more confidence than ever before. Mr. Karim walked to him and said, "Are you ready?" Ayan nodded. The host called out, "Next, we have a special presentation by Ayan Ahmed, a simple boy with a powerful idea." Whispers began again. Some students still couldn't believe it. Raheel sat at the back, arms crossed, waiting for something to go wrong. Ayan's presentation. He walked slowly to the stage, carrying the machine in his hands. Then he turned to the crowd. "My name is Ayan. I come from a village where water is more expensive than food. My mother walks miles every week to find it. I wanted to help her, so I made this." He pointed to his machine. It can pull clean water from deep underground using old parts and very little electricity. It's cheap, easy to build, and it can change lives. The crowd was silent. Then he connected the wires. He pressed the switch. For a second, nothing happened. Rahil smiled. But then, the motor started. The machine buzzed gently. The pipes shook, and then, water started flowing. Clear, clean, steady. The crowd gasped. Teachers stood up. Parents clapped. Even the principal looked shocked. Mr. Karim had a small smile on his face, like he already knew this would happen. But Ayan wasn't smiling. He was calm. Because he didn't build this for applause. He built it for his mother, his village, his dream. After the presentation, Mr. Karim took the mic. "In my 25 years of building machines," he said, "I've never seen this much heart in one invention." Ayan didn't just create a device. He created hope. He turned to Ayan. "You're not just a student now. You're an innovator, and I want to help you grow." He looked at the crowd. "My company will fund this project, and Ayan will receive a full scholarship to any school he chooses, even college, abroad if he wants." Cheers filled the hall. Ayan looked down. His eyes were wet, but he didn't cry. He just whispered softly, "Thank you." Later that evening, in the village, his mother held the machine in her hands, tears in her eyes. She looked at Ayan and said, "You've given us water and pride." His father hugged him. The neighbors came out to clap. The whole village stood in front of their small house that night, not to laugh, but to salute. But far away, in his old school, Raheel sat alone on the bench. He looked at a photo of Ayan on his phone, standing with Mr. Karim. For the first time in his life, he felt small, not because someone had more money, but because someone had more courage. The next morning, Ayan stood outside the school gate. Everything had changed. People greeted him now. Teachers smiled. Students waved. Some even asked for selfies. But Aeon remained the same. Quiet, humble, focused. He wasn't used to attention. He didn't want fame. He only wanted one thing: to solve real problems. But life, like the fields he grew up in, always had unexpected storms. And Aeon was about to face his biggest test yet. 1 week later, Kareem Tech headquarters. Aeon stood in a huge lab, cleaner and bigger than anything he'd ever seen. Machines hummed around him. Scientists walked in white coats, speaking in fast English. Mr. Kareem was standing beside him. "We're going to test your design," he said. "If it works on a bigger level, we'll begin production." Aeon nodded, heart racing. He looked at the machine in front of him. It was his design, but rebuilt with better materials. It looked modern now, like something from a science magazine. "This version will be tested by experts," Mr. Kareem said, "and some government officers are coming too." Aeon's hands began to sweat. This wasn't just a school project anymore. This was real. Meanwhile, back at school, Rahil sat in class, staring at his phone. He scrolled through news articles. Farmer's son builds invention that can save villages. Meet Aeon, the boy genius. He felt like a ghost. Once the center of attention, now forgotten. His friend said quietly, "Bro, he's everywhere. You should do something." Rahil's eyes narrowed. "Maybe, I still can." Later that day, Kareem Lab. Aeon stood behind a glass wall. Engineers were preparing the machine for testing. A group of government officers had arrived, including one from the National Water Board. He looked serious and impatient. "Let's begin," he said. Mr. Kareem nodded. They filled the machine's tank, set the controls, and pressed the button. For a moment, silence. Then the motor began to hum. The pipes vibrated. Everyone leaned in. Aeon held his breath. Suddenly, pop. A wire sparked. A coil smoked. The machine stopped. Everyone looked up. "Shut it down," one engineer shouted. The officer crossed his arms. "Is this a joke?" Aeon froze. He ran to the machine, eyes wide. Something wasn't right. He opened the side panel. A small copper coil, missing. He knew that trick. It was the same coil Rahil had removed before the school science fair. But this time, Aeon had not checked. He had trusted others to build it. And now, in front of the world, he had failed. Outside the lab, 30 minutes later, Aeon sat alone on the steps, head down. Reporters had already started writing stories. Genius fails in first big test. Machine breaks during demo. Project in doubt. He felt ashamed. Mr. Kareem walked out and sat beside him. "You okay?" he asked. Aeon nodded slowly. "I should have checked everything. This is my fault." Mr. Kareem looked at him. "You know, when I built my first robot, it caught fire in front of a judge." Aeon looked up, surprised. Mr. Kareem smiled. "Failure is not the test, Aeon. What you do after it is." Just then, an engineer came running. "Sir, we checked the machine. Someone changed the wiring. It was done on purpose." Mr. Kareem's eyes sharpened. "Who had access to the lab?" he asked. "Omni staff. And 2 visitors yesterday. One said he was Aeon's classmate." Mr. Kareem's face darkened. "Get the footage." That night, a video goes viral. A CCTV video appeared online. It showed Rahil sneaking into the lab, opening the machine, and switching wires. The internet exploded. Jealous student sabotages young inventor's project. Aeon's machine was targeted, but he's not giving up. Suddenly, everyone stood with Aeon again. But Aeon didn't feel angry. He felt focused. He looked at the broken coil on his desk and said quietly, "I'll build it again. Better this time." The next day, Kareem Lab. Aeon worked non-stop. Day and night. He didn't sleep. He didn't talk much. He rebuilt the machine with stronger wires, better safety. He tested every screw, every pipe, every coil. Mr. Kareem watched from a distance and said, "Now he's truly becoming an engineer." 3 days later, a second chance. Another test. Same officers. Same engineers. This time, the room was silent, not because of fear, but respect. Ayan pressed the button. The motor started. The pipes hissed. And then, water flowed. Fast. Clear. Pure. The officer stepped forward. He tasted the water and said one word. Approved. That evening, Ayan's interview. A reporter asked, "How did you feel when the machine failed?" Ayan smiled gently. "Seeds don't grow the moment you plant them," he said. "Sometimes you need rain. And sometimes even a storm." The village of Chanpa had never been on TV. But today, reporters stood under the hot sun, pointing cameras at small mud houses and narrow streets. Children peeked from windows. Old uncles sat under trees, watching in disbelief. And in the center of it all stood Ayan, not in a suit, not with bodyguards, just in his old cotton shirt and worn sandals, holding a new water machine beside his mother. The same machine that once broke in front of officials now stood tall and shining, ready to serve the people. 1 month after the second test, Ayan's machine was a success. Mr. Karim had launched a campaign called Water for Every Home. Ayan's design would now be used in over 300 villages. Engineers were trained. Factories were built. His model was turned into a proper kit, easy to build and cheap to install. It was called the Ayan Unit, powered by hope. The world began to take notice. TV shows, magazines, online blogs, all told his story. From fields to future, the boy who solved a village's problem. A farmer's son brings water to thousands. But Ayan, he stayed quiet, focused. He still walked to the workshop every morning with his notebook in hand. One day, a letter arrived. It was from the president's office. Ayan opened it slowly, eyes wide. He read the words over and over. He was invited to speak at the National Science Conference, in front of scientists, leaders, and even the president of the country. His hands shook. "I'm just a boy," he whispered. But deep inside he knew he wasn't just anything anymore. Before the conference, a visit to his school, Ayan returned to the school where it all started. As he walked through the gate, children whispered and pointed. "That's him. Look, he's on YouTube." He meant the president. Ayan smiled kindly and walked to the classroom. The principal greeted him with a handshake and a hug. But the one face he noticed was Rahil's. He was sitting in the last row, quiet, head down. The bell rang. Students left. Ayan stayed behind. He walked to Rahil and said softly, "Why did you do it?" Rahil looked up, tears in his eyes. "I was jealous," he admitted. "You came from nothing and became something. I couldn't take it." Ayan nodded slowly. Then he reached into his bag and handed Rahil a small kit. "What's this?" Rahil asked. "It's a DIY version of the water unit. Make one. For someone who needs it." Rahil looked confused. "Even after everything I did, you want me to help?" Ayan smiled. "I wasn't building a machine. I was building change." And he walked away. The National Science Conference. The hall was massive. Lights, cameras, a sea of suits and ties. And in the middle of the stage stood Ayan. He held the mic, nervous at first. But then he looked at the crowd and spoke clearly. "I'm not from a big city. I never had a lab. But I had a question. Why should mothers walk miles for water? I didn't know the answer. So, I built one." The hall went silent. Then came loud claps. A standing ovation. The president stood and said, "We don't need rich minds. We need kind minds." Ayan is both. Back in Chanpa, that evening, the village lights flickered. Water flowed from new taps installed using the Ayan unit. Children danced around the water. Women filled buckets with smiles instead of sweat. Ayan sat under a tree, looking up at the stars. His sister sat beside him. "Will you go to America now? They're calling you, right?" Ayan smiled. "Maybe, but I'll always come back. My roots are here." His sister giggled. You're famous now. Aeon looked at the fields, the sky, and said softly, Fame doesn't grow food, but knowledge changes everything. Months later, a surprise in the mail. Mr. Karim walked into his office, holding a golden envelope. Ayan, this is for you. Inside was a letter with bold writing. Congratulations. You are one of the finalists for the Global Young Inventors Award, London, UK. Ayan stared. From the muddy streets of Chanpa to London, his journey had started with laughter, pain, and broken machines. But now, it was a journey of hope, courage, and rise. The wind was cold in London. Tall glass buildings, fast cars, people rushing everywhere. Ayan had never left his country before. Now, he was in a city where no one knew his name. But soon, the whole world would. He had been chosen as one of the finalists for the Global Young Inventors Award. It was his biggest moment. But something was missing. Something that no one could see. 2 days earlier, in his village, Ayan sat beside his mother. She was not well. Her face looked pale, her hands cold. The doctor had visited that morning and said, she needs treatment. In the city, Ayan looked at the ticket in his hand. A flight to London the next day. His mother held his hand and smiled weakly. Go, beta, she said. Your work is bigger than my sickness. But Ma, he said, his voice shaking, how can I leave you like this? She squeezed his hand. You gave water to the village. Now go and show the world what a farmer's son can do. Tears filled his eyes. He nodded. Now, in London, the hotel was grand. Cameras followed him everywhere. Other finalists came from rich families. Some even had their own teams. But Ayan stood alone. He wasn't thinking about the trophy. He was thinking about his mother. Was she eating? Was she resting? Was she okay? He called home again. No answer. His hands shook. Suddenly, he didn't feel like a genius anymore. He felt like a scared boy. At the rehearsal, each finalist had to give a speech and show their invention. When Ayan's turn came, he stood in front of the judges. But he couldn't speak. His mouth was dry, his mind blank. A judge asked, Are you okay, young man? Ayan forced a smile. Yes, sir, just tired. But inside, his heart was heavy. He returned to his hotel room that night and cried. He missed home. He missed her. Back in his village, that same night, Ayan's mother lay on the hospital bed. Machines beeped softly. The doctor checked her pulse. His father sat nearby, holding her hand. She keeps whispering his name, the nurse said. She wants to see her son win. In London, one day before the award ceremony, Ayan walked outside. He didn't care about the cold. He just wanted air. As he sat on a bench, someone walked up behind him. It was Mr. Karim. I heard you skipped the second rehearsal, he said. Ayan didn't answer. You're not just fighting for a medal, are you? Ayan shook his head. My mother is sick. She might not. He stopped. His voice broke. Mr. Karim sat beside him. Ayan, he said, you once told me a seed needs both sunlight and storms. This is your storm. Ayan looked up slowly. Then why does it feel like I'm losing everything? Mr. Karim smiled gently. Because great people always feel that right before they rise. That night, a video call. The nurse held the phone near Ayan's mother. Her eyes opened slowly. She saw Ayan's face on the screen. Beta, she whispered. I'm scared, Ma, he said, voice shaking. What if I fail tomorrow? She smiled softly. You already won, my son. Not because of a trophy, but because you didn't stop. Tears rolled down Ayan's cheeks. I love you, Ma. I love you more, she whispered. The screen went black. Call ended. The awards ceremony. Final day. Ayan stood behind the curtain. Thousands of people in the crowd. Lights shining. Cameras flashing. The host called out. From India, please welcome Ayan Ahmed. He walked slowly to the stage, took a deep breath, and spoke. Ayan's speech. My name is Ayan. I come from a village where people laughed when a boy said he wanted to change the world. They called me just a farmer's son. But I wasn't trying to be famous. I just wanted to help my mother carry less water. And in that journey, I found something powerful. Not just an invention, but a purpose. He paused, looked at the camera. I don't know if I'll win today, but I know this: every child, from every village, deserves the chance to build something. Not just machines, but hope. The audience stood up, loud claps, some with tears. Even the judges were smiling. Later that night, the results. The host walked to the mic. This year's Global Young Inventor Award goes to Pause, Ayan Ahmed. The crowd exploded with joy. Ayan stood frozen, then walked slowly to the stage. He took the trophy with shaking hands and whispered to the sky, "This is for you, Ma." Back home, hospital room. The nurse entered the room with a smile. She turned on the TV. The news showed Ayan holding the trophy, smiling. His mother, though weak, opened her eyes and smiled too. One tear rolled down her cheek. She whispered, "My son did it." The plane landed with a soft thud. The air smelled of soil. The wind was warm. It was home. Ayan stepped out, holding the trophy in his hands. But he wasn't thinking about the cameras waiting outside. He was thinking about his mother. Outside the airport, a crowd waited. Hundreds of people had gathered. Some came from Ayan's village. Some were students. Some just wanted to see the boy they had watched on TV. They held signs. "Welcome, Ayan Bai, pride of our village. From farmer's son to world hero." As Ayan walked out, the crowd clapped and cheered. Flashlights blinked. Reporters rushed forward. But Ayan raised his hand gently. "Please," he said, "I need to go home." Back in Chanpa, the car reached the village by evening. Lights hung from trees. The roads were clean. Children ran beside the car, laughing. His house was decorated. His father stood at the gate, smiling proudly. But Ayan rushed inside. He opened the door to his mother's room. There she was, lying in bed, weak but awake. When she saw him, her eyes filled with tears. He dropped to his knees beside her and placed the trophy in her hands. "This is yours," he whispered. "You never gave up on me." She smiled faintly, tears rolling down her cheeks. "You were never just a farmer's son," she said. "You were born to rise." A week later, at the school, the same classroom where he once stood alone was now full. Banners on the wall read, "Guest speaker, Ayan Ahmed." Students clapped as he entered. Even Rahil stood up, clapping the loudest. Ayan walked to the front. He looked at the young faces, some curious, some nervous, some just like he once was. And he said, "I want to tell you a story, not about success, but about pain." The room went quiet. When people laughed at me, I stayed quiet. When I failed, I cried. When I felt lost, I wanted to quit. But I didn't, because I remembered, my village needs water, my people need hope. And hope doesn't come from books or money. It comes from trying again. A few months later, a big announcement. Ayan and Mr. Karim stood together on a stage in the capital city. They launched a new program, Project Udon, science labs in every village. The idea was simple. Bring science tools to small schools. Train teachers. Give young kids a chance to invent. And guess who was chosen to lead it? Ayan. He didn't want to be called Sir or CEO. He said, "Call me a guide. That's all I am." In villages across the country, children now played with real science kits. They built small windmills, water filters, solar lamps. One boy in a remote village built a device that could cool rooms without electricity. Another girl made a sensor for crops that saved water. They didn't come from rich cities. They came from farms, fields, villages, just like Ayan. 1 year later, a global stage again. Ayan was invited to speak at the United Nations. He stood among world leaders and said, "You call me a young inventor. But back home, I was just a boy who saw his mother carry heavy buckets of water. I didn't invent to win. I invented to make her smile. If every child has a reason to care, the world will change faster than we think. The whole stood in silence. Then applause. Because the truth always touches the heart. Back in Chanpa, that evening, the sky was golden. Aeon sat on the same old bench under the neem tree, beside his mother. His trophy was kept on a shelf inside, dusty but safe. His sister sat nearby, reading a book on science. His father watered the small vegetable patch they now grew at home. Peace. No cameras, no stage, no speeches, just the soft sound of birds and the quiet pride in a mother's eyes. They had once laughed at the farmer's son. They said, "He'll never be anything." But they were wrong. He became a builder of dreams, a guide for others, and a quiet hero whose strength came not from power, but from love.